2 seconds.
Yeah. Yes, welcome to another episode of Casket Ready. I am your host, your co-host, Mr. Life, and I got my other co-host here, Real Estate Ra. Welcome. Today's topic is protect your holiday memories. So we're gonna go ahead and get right into it. We're not gonna waste any time. Obviously, why? Because it is the holidays. So we're here to talk about the holidays. Thanksgiving is 2 days away. Christmas is next month. New Year's is right around the corner. So we're gonna get right into it. And yeah, let's go. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, man. The holiday season is good. The holiday season is when, the one time a year or 2 times a year when family actually comes together and it's not funerals. So you're actually celebrating, having fun, gaining some weight, eating some food. So, the point of this topic is just protecting the holidays, meaning that, and protecting the memories, meaning that all these holidays that we spend with our family and friends and loved ones, don't you want to protect them? Don't you want to have them around for a very long time? Don't you want when they leave this earth, they're protected and they leave off memories for the rest of the families? And I say that to say that if we have life insurance policies and these same family members, if someone passes and they're the breadwinner in the family, or they're the one that held Thanksgivings, or a couple people that held Thanksgivings, once they're gone, sometimes families split just because of money, because they can't afford to come together anymore. So just as simple as having a life insurance policy can help that situation where you can keep it going and keep the family together and have more holidays together overall.
Let me ask you this: Have you ever known anyone to pass away during the holiday season?
Yeah,
Has that ever happened to you?
yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
And how did that affect you? You know, in general, how did that affect you?
Um, yeah, no. That definitely had a family member pass around the holidays. First off, it's sad. Second, just grieving. And then on top of that, not having a life insurance policy at the end of the day to cover the cost is stressful. Because
Mm,
imagine having somebody pass at the holidays and nobody really has the money to bury them,
mm,
and now everybody's scrambling to bury him, and that
mm,
feeling was not good at all. Because at least if a policy was in place at the time when this happened in the younger days,
mhm.
then we could have just celebrated the person the right way instead of having to worry about how we're going to bury him, how we're going to pay for this, all at the same time when we're supposed to be grieving and celebrating the person.
Yeah, no, that makes sense because I mean, even if we break it down, right, like the cost to bury somebody is anywhere from about $7,000 to $20,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just to bury seven thousand on the low end and 20 on a fair, decent, end. Then you have to think about the plot. You get what I'm saying? That's another few $1,000s, $3,000 to $5,000 just for the plot itself. You ever go
Mm-hmm.
to a cemetery and don't see a plot?
Absolutely, all the time.
Yeah,
Most of plots, no plots.
exactly. And it's not because they don't want it there. It's just that because it's expensive to put there. You get what I'm
Mm.
saying? And then on top of that, you got to take off work. That's going to cost another maybe 1 or 3 grand based off of how long that you have to take off of work. Some
Mm.
people do get bereavement, but imagine going through all of this while while it's the holidays. You get what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like why, like you said to your point, during a time where it's supposed to be fun, you're celebrating life itself. You're with the family, you're with your close friends, eating, drinking, having a good time. But at the same time, now you just lost somebody that's dear to your heart. So this is crucial, man. This is important. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Now, matter of fact, not to make light of it, I
Mm-hmm.
always wonder though, like with people with no plots, how can you really tell where your family member's buried? Like I'm like, man, not me, man. I'm bad at geography. I get lost in a second. I used to be like, man, once my family members get buried and they have no plot, I'm like, yeah, I ain't gonna never go see them. You know what I mean? That's like a maze.
That's my story. No, I mean, but I get it though, because like, where are they? Like, you gotta like know, or you gotta look at the person who has a plot and kind of go off that as your
Mm-hmm.
landmark to say, hey, I
Mm-hmm.
know my loved one is next to this person because this person got a plot. You get what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm. And that's crazy when you think about it logically, though. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Now that is wallow. You know, another thing that people don't take into account, um, the difference between someone family who is protected and someone family who isn't protected during the holiday season. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? Like it's just different outcomes. You get what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? like the person who is protected or the family that is protected, they could just mourn more peacefully. It's not going to change the fact that the person passed away, no. But at least during the times, because think about it, kids don't really care about, or not that they don't care, but they just, it's hard for them to fathom the idea of this person gone, right? Or especially if it's an elderly and they're still young. All they're thinking about is, are they still getting gifts on Christmas, right? So they're not receiving it the same way somebody else in the family is receiving it. And for that reason, it's the responsibility of the parent or the adult to make sure that that child still has a good holiday. But how does that happen if there's no policy in place? Because let's face it, the money that you would have used during Christmas now has to go to planning somebody else's funeral. If that makes sense. So then now that kid can't get that same experience that he or she is accustomed to based off of that. So that's why that's important. You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. And matter of fact, next thing I'm gonna do to piggyback off your point is just jump and segue right into the video of kind of expressing the Anthony Anderson talking about it.
Got you.
But in real life, I grew up in a very different neighborhood. My parents worked hard for everything we had, but one key thing I learned from them was to take care of the future. They understood that tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. That's why they each had life insurance. And when I turned 18, I got a policy too. This is what I don't understand. If we could do it on our limited income, why are there over 100 million Americans without life insurance? Wouldn't you want to make sure your family is okay if something happened to you? I mean, you insure your high-def big screen, but not the person watching. What's up with that? Where's your family's safety net? If you can buy a latte now and then, you can pay for a life insurance policy. It's that affordable. As a husband and a father, I understand why my parents made it a priority. You should too.
Yeah, man. So he touched on some real good points, man. I mean, he's a little behind the ball. He said when he got a policy when he was 18. I mean, you should have got that before, but we learning that's a little outdated. We getting policies on babies when they're 2 weeks old.
But better late than never, though. I tell you that.
Never late is better, though.
I like it. That's right.
But no. To his point though, like I mean, they're so affordable. He said like if you can get a latte now and then, you can get a policy, which is the truth. Because lattes is cool like $6, $7, $8 these days, and if you get 3 or 4 of those a month, that's a life insurance policy.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And to his point, wouldn't you want to protect your loved ones? Wouldn't you want to protect your family?
And he said he said if you get insurance on the big screen like your TV, like shouldn't you get insurance on the person who's watching the TV, like which is yourself. And that's a good point that he brought up. A lot of times we insure the things that's important to us, right? Which is still good, but we don't protect the most valuable thing outside of those things, which is ourselves, right? And it's a habit. We're creatures of habit, so we're accustomed to putting ourselves last when we should be putting ourselves first, so that we can protect everything else around us. But how can we protect everything else around us if we don't protect ourselves first? So I think all around it's most important to protect ourselves, but the reminder and the refresher comes from the holidays, because that's when you know who or what is most important to you is during the holiday season. You get what I'm saying? Shout out to Judy. She said life insurance is important. You must make it your priority for yourself and your loved ones. You're absolutely right. But do you know what the messed up part is? They're not going to need it until they need it. You get what I'm saying? That's the truth. They're not going to need it until they need it. You're not
gonna need it till it's too late. You know what I mean? How many times do we hear the stories of when it's too late and now you want it and it's just too late? And we in the holiday times, back to the original point, of Thanksgiving. And Thanksgiving is a time where everybody comes together, everybody eats together, everybody's celebrating. And it's one of those things where you just got to be mindful that you want to have these things in place to continue those things on, and you want to be grateful, but you also want to prepare. You know what I mean? And it's one of those things where, I'll give you an example. Today, I had a closing today, and had one of the clients, and we went to the house. We did the walkthrough. That's when he checked the house right before he signed the papers, make sure everything is clean and clear. And he was so excited. because he was like, ah man, he was like, and you know, he's Spanish, so he always calls me Radishi. That's my nickname, Radishi.
Radishi?
Radishi.
I'm gonna start calling you that now. Real estate Radishi.
And you know, we looked at the house, everything was good. You know, we got the papers signed, all that type of stuff went, and it was a crazy day. I mean, we went through a lot. Today was a crazy day. You know, just in general, the process of making sure we had all the money together to be able to get the house, the down payment, you know, trying to take advantage of a program that didn't work out too much, putting money together, borrowing money, doing this, doing that to get to the closing table and get this house and get his family, you know, safe and have something for them to live in that's nice. Did all that strenuous process, and today was a very good day, very happy day for him. And ultimately, you know, I asked him, I said, you know, you did all this type of stuff, but I was like, listen, we got to actually protect this. I said, what if something happened to you tomorrow? He was like, well, you know, I don't know. Because he was excited about Thanksgiving. He was like, I'm going to try to do some Thanksgiving here at the new house. There's no furniture in there. But I said, think about this. If something happened to you today or tomorrow, what would happen? He was like, I don't know. And I was like, yeah, we got to get you set up with a life insurance policy. Because at the end of the day, you went through all of this headache, all of this to get this home to protect your family. But in all reality, if something happened to you tomorrow, next week, everything is gone.
Let me ask you this:
kids can't take care of it.
How receptive was he to, you know, when you spoke to him about that? What was his response?
Oh no, he was very receptive. He was like, oh, you know, I don't know nothing about it like that, but no, definitely want to protect it, you know, because if something does happen to me, I want the family to be okay and the kids to be okay. And I was like, yeah, that's why you got to have one of these policies, you know. And I asked them too. I said, hey, you know, if something were to happen, does your wife know what to do? Does she know who to talk to? Where does she get money from? Where's she getting help from? And he was like, you know, I never really thought about that in buying his house. he's like, you're making me nervous, Radishi. But it's the truth, man. Like, you know, get one of those big assets. Like if you're walking around here and you have any type of assets, I mean, a car, baseball cards, anything that you have that you consider value, and you don't have a life insurance policy, you're cheating yourself and your loved ones, because guess who gets to take that? The government or anyone. And do you want to be in that situation?
No, and the thing is, I'm glad you even brought that up, because even just as simple as having money in the bank, like where does that money go, or who you know, receives that money when you pass away? You didn't have, you know, no beneficiary on that account. You get what I'm saying? Like, who takes that, right? You get what I'm saying? So to your point, we don't think about these things, and they say if you stay ready, you never got to get ready. And when it comes to life insurance, it's not just about the policy. It's about you prepping for your life. It's about you prepping for when you're no longer here. What's going to happen to the, you know, like you said, what's going to happen to the family? And I'm glad that we're normalizing these conversations, because we don't have them enough. And, you know, some people are afraid to talk about it, you know, but it's a crucial conversation. I understand. Nobody likes to talk about death. They're scared. They never want to accept the inevitable, by the way, right? It's going to come regardless. But, you know, we don't like to normalize it, like I said. But I'm glad that we do normalize these conversations, because like shout out to Tawana, like she said, it's super important. And here's the thing: people are going to call us when, you know, and we're going to pick up. But the problem is that when we pick up, the conversation that we're going to have with them is going to be totally different, because unfortunately it may be too late. And so these are the reasons why we have these conversations now, to where we're trying to save the conversation of us letting you know that it's too late and we can't help. So help us help you, if that makes sense, right? And I think that's important, you know.
And the next thing I want to bring up too, you know, the crazy part about what you said is people don't want to talk about death, but it's not called death insurance. Yeah. It's called life insurance
for a reason.
It breathes life into our households, into our loved ones. What do I mean by that? This product has many variations of products, meaning that at the end of the day, you can literally use it to invest. You can use it to borrow money from, to take care of a big family event or a mishap or an emergency. You know, replace some tires when you don't got the money in the bank. You can pull it out of your life insurance policy. You can use it to send your kids to college. You can use it to put a down payment on a house. The crazy part about it is life insurance is used to help you live life. And people don't even realize that. Even a step further with the living benefits, if you don't die, if you are extremely sick, you get cancer, God forbid, or you can't perform 2 out of 6 daily functions, you have access anywhere from 50 to 75% of your money. So again, you get to live life. That's why it's called life insurance, not death insurance. People only remember the death and the large payout, but that's one benefit of the whole entire thing out of like 40 benefits, which is
Correct.
crazy.
Correct. And I get it. I get why they think about that, because that is the biggest component, right? The death benefit. And they're thinking like, oh, well, I'm not gonna be here tomorrow, so I'm not gonna benefit from that. And that's it's messed up, but that's how most people are thinking about it. It's one of these things where it's a selfless act. Like, you can't think about yourself in this process. You have to think about everybody else. It's not, and to your point, it is to benefit you now. That's why they have these living benefits. That's why they've upgraded the way that we look at life insurance today, because it was solely for the beneficiary. Now it's for you. And a lot of times people get sick more often than we actually think. And accidents do happen. So we have to prepare for these accidents. And people, and I'm telling you, it happens. Like, you could be the healthiest person, and then something just sporadically happens. I tell my story all the time. That's what happened to me. So I'm a living testimony of why it's important to actually get a policy. It doesn't have to be $1 million policy. You can get something small, just as long as it's enough to where when something does happen, it can affect your family in a positive way. That is it. It doesn't have to be nothing. At the very least, don't let your death be somebody else's burden.
Yeah.
At the very, very least.
Absolutely. And again, to piggyback off what you said, it's called life insurance. So much so that 30% of millionaires and billionaires' income comes from life insurance. So again, living life. They're living more life because they're making money off this policy. Again, 30% of billionaires and millionaires' income comes from life insurance. And this is the kicker. It's affordable for regular Joe Schmoes. You know what I mean? If you got a regular job, if you could afford at least $30 to $50 a month, I'm not even going to use that word. Let me not say if you can afford. You can afford.
You can afford
So,
it. Yep.
if you make the decision to take this serious and have the conversation at minimum, to get a quote at minimum, you can get one of these policies anywhere from $30 to $70 to get something to protect your life, and it can be an investment. And it doesn't just come in handy. You know what I mean? It comes to rescue your life if something really does happen. That's the life-changing event.
Absolutely. And then remember we was having a conversation the other day with one of the big bros, and he was talking about, imagine if like everybody in our communities had a policy. What would that do? Because it's unfortunate that even the police brutality, and I don't want to go too deep into it, but a huge reason why a lot of us get gunned down, right? And there's no real consequence to it. Is because we don't have life insurance. Now think about it from this perspective. What if the average Black and brown person had a policy and we still get gunned down? You know how much hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars would get paid out to these families? Then the insurance companies is going to get come down on the police departments and the city of whatever city that you're in and say, hold on, wait, what's going on here? Why are we paying out so much money? Right? It's going to make a huge impact. And the reason why the cops are so easy to pull the trigger on a Black and brown person, because they know for a fact that we don't have life insurance. They know it. And
percentage is low.
Percentage is low. And other races, they have it. So they're hesitant to pull that trigger. And that's just the reality of it.
Yeah, it comes down to money. I mean, it comes down to money at the end of the day. You know what I mean? No, nobody's going to continue to make a product that's paying people out a crazy amount of
Ex-
money at the end of the day.
Exactly.
It comes down to money. And then, so to your point, it goes back to just people's mental space of how they think about stuff, how they go about stuff, and not wanting to leave money to somebody else after they pass. But that's what you want to do at the end of the day. Wouldn't you want to make somebody else's life better? You know what I mean? Wouldn't you want to enhance your kid's life? Wouldn't you want to enhance your brother or your cousin's life? Why wouldn't you? Wouldn't you want to enhance your wife's life or your significant other's life? I would think so, naturally, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
And I
that's a
think
natural
we
thing.
all do, I think we all do, but it's one of those things where it just gets misconstrued and twisted in a different angle, and we look at just the negative part about, hey, you're benefiting from my death. But the truth is, though, honestly, why wouldn't you want to benefit from somebody's death? You know what I mean? I look forward to my son benefiting from my death. Let's be honest here. Like, you know what I mean? Imagine you getting one of these policies at a decent age to know that as long as I do what I need to do, maintain this policy, get a few of these policies, and when my head hits that dirt, my son is going to make a come up. That's the best gift you can give somebody. It don't even have to be your kids. It could be, your wife, your husband, you know what I mean? A brother, your best friend. Any type of insurable interest, you invest into that. That's the best thing anyone could do it for you. Not the best thing, but one of the best things anyone could ever do for you.
Absolutely. I'll tell you one thing though. You be the dad of the century after that.
Absolutely.
Or the husband of the century after that, right?
Absolutely.
Or like that person is going, whoever that person is to you, they are going to love you for like ever. Like you're going to be unforgettable at that point. And it's super important, man, to make sure that that's the best form of love that you can get to somebody is getting a policy. That's how you truly show that you love somebody, when they feel the effects or they feel your presence after you're gone.
That's real right there. Feel your presence after you're gone. And it's crazy too, which I want to touch on, which brings to another point. All these holidays is always about family, right? But we always know women and kids are always the focal point, which let me segue into the next point of it, is that women, y'all need life insurance. It's not just about the husbands or the boyfriends or the male head of the household. Women, y'all need life insurance. Get life insurance. You love them kids to death. You get them the iPads, the iPhones, the birthday parties, the sweet 16s, the proms, the cars. I do anything for my baby. Where that life insurance policy at? Imagine for your kid, that same kid, imagine investing women into a policy where you can help them pay for college to better their education and better their life. Imagine investing in that policy where, let's face it, a single family household, there is no male there. There is no male presence. And don't get it twisted, you can't replace the male presence. But imagine being a single mother and leaving your child generational wealth, leaving your child in a good place if something were to happen to you. It's deep, and it's a hard topic, but it's the truth. You know what I mean? Imagine, the mothers out there that you have these kids and you love them to death, and Mama Bear protects the kids 100%, but you don't leave them a policy. You don't get a policy, and you don't leave them money, and now they get put in the wrong hands. They get put in foster care, or even if they do get to go a family, that family member or family members weren't ready for that financial responsibility. So now your kid is in dangerous situations. They're around people they shouldn't be. These are real things people don't talk about.
Yeah, that's a fact. That's a fact. That's a that's a real powerful statement there. Tawana says, "What makes you think us women don't have them?"
Go ahead with that one.
No, go ahead. What you gonna say? What you gonna say?
We got Google, right? Statistics show that the women in general is about 30% of life insurance policy holders. And in fairness, part of that is because of the old traditional design of where the man is the head of the household. If something were to happen to him, he's looked upon to protect you, and he's looked upon to build build up assets, meaning that traditionally, in general, a high percentage of males would have the house. So they would leave the house for their wives and their kids. But we all know, like, that was like 30 years ago or so. Y'all got to get caught up. But to answer your question, T, that's why.
I think in general, everybody we all need it, right? And we just don't, and that's the part that we have to change. That more people just in general need coverage, right? And the reason why it's important that we have to move with a sense of urgency is because people get sick. And that's how you qualify for life insurance is that you get sick. And once you get sick, it's harder to get coverage. The older you get, it is harder to get coverage. So I don't want to paint this picture where everybody can get a policy. I would love for everybody to get a policy, but not everybody can. So while you're still in good health, while you're still in good shape, and while you're still fairly young, let's lock in these policies for real.
No, and I love that you brought that up, because part of life insurance is part of health. And we all know the game. It's the inevitable. They put so much chemicals in these foods, you bound to get something. And these days with technology keep advancing, man, they be having so many diseases out here, man. Like they be having stuff from, you got pinky toe disease. Like it's so.
You said what? What you said? You said
I said pinky toe disease. I just made that up. But
yo.
But it's the truth though, man. I mean, it's so many things that we know at the end of the day, no matter what, it's the inevitable that you're gonna come down with something. You know that you're gonna catch a cold at some point that could lead to pneumonia. Like, you know what I mean? It's at some point you're going to get sick. I don't care who you are. I don't care how healthy you are. I don't care how much vitamins you take. At some point, you're going to get sick.
That's a fact.
And if you don't have a policy depending on that sickness, you can potentially not be eligible for coverage. And if you are sick, there's a period, because we're human, it's life, where you have to readjust on how to take care of that sickness. And in that in-between time, because you're learning your body on how to take care of that sickness, you may not be eligible for coverage because you don't have it under control yet. Let's think about this logically. Would you jump in the car with a drunk person? No, because they don't have control. They're going to be swerving all over the road. It's the same concept at the end of the day. So it's one of those things where if you just found out you got diabetes, you're probably not going to have it under control for the first year and a half. So your A1C may be a 14, and that means that more things are happening to your body. Same thing with high blood pressure. You know what I mean? Hypertension, all these different types of things, mental things. Mental things are being factored into life insurance now.
Absolutely.
Meaning your mental health. If you're battling depression, insurance is going to be like, wait, hold on a second. Are you taking care of your depression? You might kill yourself. Now, there's a clause in there, but the point is that you're still a risk. So people got to realize there is a phase of something does happen to you that you have to transition and learn how to get used to this type of new sickness or new thing that came about. And in that period, it only gets worse, and you don't want to be uncovered in that situation. Not that you can't, because same example, if you got high blood pressure, you got diabetes, and you're taking care of it, policy is going to be more expensive, but you can get covered. But the last thing I say, Kay, if we jump in is now if you get the trifecta, if you mess around and get diabetes, it gets worse. You got high blood pressure and hypertension. We kind of got a problem now. Like, you know what I mean? The life insurance company gonna tell you that it's not rocket science. Hey, blood pressure, diabetes. Listen, I can't be eating cakes and throwing salt on steaks. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and every time you do,
yeah,
bars. I didn't mean that to rhyme, but that's true. Man. That's true.
yeah, and I'll bring it back full circle. Like, Thanksgiving is 2 days away. I know the turkey's coming, the yams, collard greens, the mac and cheese,
Greens,
the
yams, green.
sweet potato
You
pie.
name it.
Yeah, word. All of that good stuff, right? We all gonna gain some weight this Thanksgiving. This is gonna happen. But we have to still be aware of it. You know, the holiday times we do put on weight. That's a thing. So, you know, just be aware of it. Make sure that I like to practice risk avoidance. And you know, certain things I'm not gonna sit here and tell people what to eat, how to eat, but just be mindful of what you eat and make sure you're taking care of yourself. One thing that life insurance does do, it brings awareness to your health, whether you want to accept that or not. You get what I'm saying? So just make sure that you're taking care of yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And we just about on time. So the last thing I'll say for all the people watching this and viewing this, hit replay. If any of this make any sense to you, go to our website, book a consultation, sit down with us and get a quote to see what life insurance costs. You know, at the end of the day, protect your family. Protect the memories that we're having for Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's. You want to protect those people you're having fun with. So go to the site or call us on the number on the screen scrolling below and share with your friends. Again, any question or any doubt, book an appointment. That's all I got.
I would say next week's topic, we're going to be talking about business ownership and how it affects life insurance. You know, so tune into next week's episode on Casket Ready. And if nothing else, happy holidays, happy Thanksgiving, and we will see you guys next Monday. Yeah, have a good night.
Peace.
Peace.